Fires rage either side of the Thames. The fuel, weeks of drought. The ignition, the hottest English day on record.
Tonight, wildfires are ripping through Europe and parts of northern Africa. In Spain, 17 fires are raging across the country, and thousands are frantically fleeing their homes.
Europe is in the grip of a fierce heat wave, with many countries across the continent experiencing record temperatures. Wildfires are burning in different parts of the continent, including in France, Spain, Italy, Portugal, Croatia and Greece.
Today in the town of Nantes, France, a reading of 107.6 Fahrenheit. Temperatures touched 100 in the UK.
We had set ourselves on a course of destruction, and the problem is, do we have the courage to actually get out of that course, or are we stuck with it and we'll just simply drift with it until we wipe ourselves out?
Plankton all but wiped out in catastrophic loss of life. Here's the lead. Quote, scientists have discovered a catastrophic loss of life in our oceans we can reveal. End quote. The following 21 words tell the whole story. Quote, an Edinburgh-based research team fears plankton, the tiny organisms that sustain life in our seas, has all but been wiped out. Back to the paper in the Sunday Post, which is titled, Our Empty Oceans. Scott's team's research finds Atlantic plankton all but wiped out in catastrophic loss of life. Here's the lead. Quote, scientists have discovered a catastrophic loss of life in our oceans we can reveal. End quote. The following 21 words tell the whole story. Quote, an Edinburgh-based research team fears plankton, the tiny organisms that sustain life in our seas, has all but been wiped out. End quote. If you're a rare individual actually paying attention to my freely available work, then you know that the loss of plankton has been reported for several years. In addition, you will not be surprised that we reached the point that scientists have been warning us about quite a while ago. The third paragraph of this story in the Sunday Times provides a stunningly comprehensive explanation. Quote, the scientists warn there are only a few years left before the consequences become catastrophically clear when fish, whales, and dolphins become extinct with grave implications for the planet. In the report, the researchers from the Global Oceanic Environmental Survey Foundation, GOES, state, an environmental catastrophe is unfolding. We believe humanity could adapt to global warming and extreme weather changes. It is our view that humanity will not survive the extinction of most marine plants and animals. End quote. Well, duh. Not only will humanity not survive the extinction of most marine plants and animals, otherwise known as a dead ocean, but humanity also will not survive the rapid environmental change resulting from the ongoing mass extinction event. As I pointed out repeatedly in this space, we do not have decades ahead of us. We have only until shortly after we run out of habitat for human animals. I join other scientists in being surprised we made it this long with habitat on Earth for our species, most notably resulting from ice still floating on the Arctic Ocean, and also passing the global peak of oil extraction more than 17 years ago. We have not yet experienced an ice-free Arctic Ocean, despite projections to the contrary. We have not yet experienced the uncontrolled meltdown of enough of the world's nuclear facilities to remove habitat for human animals. Such an event will lead to stripping away of stratospheric ozone. We have not yet experienced the fate faced by many other vertebrates and mammals. We have only experienced wet bulb temperatures sufficient to cause organ failure in humans beyond tropical and subtropical regions relatively recently. In fact, that began happening on July 7th, 2022, and it's happening right now throughout much of Europe, coming soon to North America, if it hasn't arrived by the time I release this video. Our stunningly good fortune aside, so far, we do not have until 2050, contrary to the idiocy sent my way every day. Believing paid climate scientists, politicians, and media personalities is a prescription for unpleasant surprises in the near future. Here's what team leader Howard Dryden said to the interviewer at the Sunday Post. Quote, based on our observations, plankton numbers have already crashed and are now at the levels that I predicted would not happen for another quarter of a century. End quote. This is the response I've come to expect from virtually all humans. catastrophic events are occurring faster than expected. Dryden goes on, quote, "Given that plankton is the life support system for the planet and humanity cannot survive without it, the result is disturbing. Our results confirmed a 90% reduction in primary productivity in the Atlantic. Effectively, the Atlantic Ocean is now pretty much dead. We surveyed the Caribbean from St. Lucia to Grenada. Now the only fish available in restaurants there is imported farmed Atlantic salmon. It had been reported that 50% of the coral was gone. Our observations were that the coral is 100% gone in many locations and 90% gone in all locations." End quote. The story in the Sunday Post includes a link to SSRN, a preprint and early research platform hosted by the renowned Elsevier series of journals. Posting a preprint, as Howard Dryden and his colleague Diane Duncan have done, allows authors to share their research quickly and widely ahead of peer review and publication. In this case, the preprint served as the basis for the story published in the Sunday Post. A link to the preprint is included in the blog post at GuyMcPherson.com, coincident with the release of this video. Near the bottom of page 5 in the 8-page preprint at SSRN comes this line, quote, "Perhaps over a time frame of just 1 or 2 years, we lose all the whales, seal, birds, teleost fish, and the food supply for 2 billion people." End quote. If more evidence is needed, here's a headline from Yahoo News on July 18th, 2022. Worst case weather prediction for 2050 is coming true this week in Britain. The second paragraph reads, quote, "In the summer of 2020, the Met Office created imagined weather forecasts for the year 2050 based on climate projections, and they look eerily similar to this week's UK heat wave." End quote. Climate scientist Dr. Simon Lee of Columbia University wrote on Twitter, quote, "In 2020, the Met Office produced a hypothetical weather forecast for 23 July 2050 based on UK climate projections. Today, the forecast for Tuesday is shockingly almost identical for large parts of the country." End quote. Shocking? Really? I don't know if paid climate scientists are required to be ignorant or if it's a decision they make on their own. In more recent news, here's a headline from The Guardian in the UK on July 20th, 2022. "Alarm as fastest growing US cities risk becoming unlivable from climate crisis." The subhead reads, "Some of the cities enjoying population boom are among those gripped by a ferocious heat wave and seeing record temperatures." Here's the lead. Quote, "The ferocious heat wave that is gripping much of the U.S. South and West has highlighted an uncomfortable, ominous trend. People are continuing to flock to the cities that risk becoming unlivable due to the climate crisis." End quote.
Just to live healthy. And what IRA does is bring a lot of knowledge where researchers, policymakers can use to make our best when our time's here. And we are not denying that climate crisis is not happening. It's happening, so real. And IRA is also bringing a lot of light with the data that he collects. And yes, Ira, thank you very much for these videos. And in your article, you titled, later on you changed the article title, you said you called it "How Much is Too Much." Can you also comment on how much is too much?
Yes, so
we are talking about the oil spill, of course.
Yes, so on the plus side, oil supports tolerant species and provides widely. It's toxic, and the more bit there is, the higher the concentrations, the more toxic it is, which means the greater the adaptation that's going to occur within the ecosystem. And for example, there are oil seeps on land near me in California, where about the only thing you see are microbes and some certain flies and their larvae. Nothing else can survive in them. So on the one hand, it's amazing in these pure oil pools that you see anything at all. On the other hand, that's not a very dynamic ecosystem. And the concept that William had introduced as a measure of how much is too much is probably when it stops being sustainable. So if you start, the more you push an ecosystem towards monocultures, the less sustainable it is, because monocultures tend to be very intolerant of other stressors. And this is something that we know from agriculture, where you replace a diverse forest with a single species of pine, and suddenly a Colorado beetle comes and destroys the entire pine forest, because it's an excellent predator of those, or grazer of those particular trees, and there are no other trees. And since there are no other trees, without those pines, the rest of the ecosystem collapses. And that's, is certainly not a sustainable ecosystem development, at least on human timescales. And I always like to bring in the point of timescales, because again, you look on geological timescales, tens and tens of millions of years ago, an asteroid slammed into Earth and killed 97% of everything, made it quite monoculture, comparatively speaking, to the diversity under which the dinosaurs ruled the Earth. And if it wasn't for that mass die-out, well, we, the mammals, and humans in particular, would not be here having this conversation and trying to protect the biodiversity that we currently enjoy.
It's pretty bad. So, the water supplies in general, and I would probably, I tested my tap water a few years ago and I was like, oh, horrors. It's pretty bad. So, the water supplies in general, and I would probably, probably not be wrong in guessing that public water supplies aren't really very good for you. Right? They're probably pretty contaminated. Most cities, the studies and the stories go on and on about lead in the water and radioactivity in the water and forever chemicals in the water. But now they're saying rainwater has forever chemicals. And okay, so just on face value, I'd be like, yeah, they're everywhere. I just read a story about PFAS yesterday, and the how it's the omnipresence of it. It's everywhere. New study finds rainwater unsafe to drink.
Heat wave in Spain has sparked forest fires and has
due to forever chemicals. So the thing that makes me, somewhat suspicious of this, and yeah, somebody brought this up the other day about saying, like, are they going to target, in some places it's illegal to collect rainwater. Are they going to make it seem like you can't drink the water anywhere, right? You have to buy the water. You have to buy treated water. You have to buy the filter, right? It's all a way to like control where you get your water and how you get your water and how you treat your water, right? And possibly clamping down on people collecting rainwater. Yeah. I was like, I could see that. I could see why they're saying. So there's two ways, I think, to me, to look at this story, which is that, yeah, of course, it's, we're poisoning everything, sure. And why are they going after rainwater when the water coming out of your tap is probably 3 times more poisonous than the rain coming from the sky? Give me some rainwater any day, right? You could, I'd probably be like, yeah, sure, there's probably something bad in the rainwater, but I'd be like, give me some rainwater any day over any other kind of water. Please give me even over bottled water. Give me rainwater. If I can collect some rainwater, I'll take it. But you remember the stories back in the day of acid rain, which were true, right? That acid rain, good example of a very, very tight, how everything is connected, right? The very tight cycle of life. We put these, things into the air, and the clouds, the evaporation, the clouds soak up the water that is, and they're taking up all the chemicals and the pollutants that are in the air and in the water and in the ground, and then they rain it down on you, like, Oh my God. But acid rain was a real thing.
That could be constructive for the public health of the country are providing for Facebook or other platforms to measure and publicly share the impact of misinformation on their platform and the audience it's reaching. Also with the public, with all of you, to create robust enforcement strategies that bridge their properties and provide transparency about rules. You shouldn't be banned from one platform and not others if you
That's what she meant by transparency. Not that they have to tell you why you're being banned.
No.
It's just that why you're just banned on one.
Yeah, why are you? So if you get banned on Twitter, you should be banned on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. That's what she's saying.
And out there, taking faster action against harmful posts.
Harmful posts.
Harmful posts.
Like what?
So this is real. This is really fucking Third Reich dictator bullshit that the government is trying. Why is policing our speech?
Well, I'll be banged later. But I think the real snowflakes. I mean.
This year, he expects his harvest of cannoli rice, favored for risotto, to be 30% of what it was last year. In Spain, which provides nearly half of the world's olive oil, Agricultural Minister Luis Planas last week warned that this year's olive harvest could be notably lower than previous ones. Spain's Association of Young Farmers and Ranchers, ASASHA, predicts that olive yields will drop by a third. Quote, "What's happening this year is very scary," enologist Ton Mata, third-generation owner and CEO of Ricardo Vineyard in Spain's Cava region, Alpendes, told Yahoo News. "We have little rain and a very long dry hot period with 3 heat waves. We are seeing that grapes are very small and weigh less. Although the harvest is just beginning, he's sure that the yield will be down by 20 to 40%. The corn harvest is expected to be 18.5% lower this year, and farmers said other cereal and fruit and vegetable crops were suffering. Meanwhile, India stopped exporting wheat because extremely hot weather, LOL, aka climate catastrophe, caused such a drop in wheat production. The country needed to save the harvest for itself. Did you get that? I'm not trying to overwhelm you, but if you feel overwhelmed, you should be. The planet is sending us a message, and it's terrifying. But are we listening? Let me start over with what I was wrong about exactly. I said, thought, forecast, predicted, whatever you'd like to call it, that it would take us getting to the end of this decade or so for this to happen. What is this? For climate change, extinction to cause genuine and immediate catastrophic system failures to our civilization. But, like I said, I was wrong. It didn't take until the end of this decade. It is happening now. It's just 2022. That is flat out terrifying. Why? Am I just fear-mongering? Just trying to scare you? My friends, when Europe's crops are beginning to fall by 30%, in some cases 50%, that is about as grave a calamity as society can begin to experience. It's a really big deal. But you know what the irony is? Most people don't think so. They see these desperate farmers going bankrupt, absolutely shocked at the way the planet's changed before their very eyes, and they ignore them. I've been talking with people about this, just average people, at my little European dog park. And you know what? Nobody cares. The general attitude is blasé. Shrug. So what? We'll get by. But will we? Let me say, we are now beginning to experience widespread, massive crop failures as a result of climate change. Get that far, and at least you begin to understand something. But even that's a poor, limited way to think of it. A better way? Extinction is coming. For our water and for our crops. They are dying too. So what about us? The reason that most people don't think any of this matters, sadly, very simple. My little dog park is an affluent neighborhood in a rich city. It's full of city people who are my friends and neighbors. But the last thing they are is farmers. To them, the production of basics, water, food, energy, medicine, is an abstraction. They can feel the heat of the park itself. They can see the dogs panting and even coo over them. But they are unable to really make the link between extinction